Okay, so good evening, everyone. I am Avnish Singh, Developer Student Club Lead, Build Institute of Applied Sciences, and this event is in collaboration with the Developer Student Club Techno International Bhatanagar. And the topic for this event is the placement plot. And the main theme that we will be covering today is that many students like us, almost like mostly we don't know exactly where to look for things or how to approach the stuff. There is everything out there when you Google data structures, placement. There are many courses, there are many resources, many articles and stuff out there. But what's the right approach and what is for beginners and what should not be preferred by beginners? So these are the parts that we'll be covering today. And for that, we have a really great speaker and that we'll be introducing very soon to you all. And I hope you all are doing good and all are safe. So I would now like, sorry, I would now like to invite Alicia from DSC TIB lead to invite our speaker. Over to you, Alicia.
Thank you so much, Avnish. I hope my voice is clear. Can anyone confirm that?
Yeah, your voice is audible.
Okay. So, hello everyone. I hope your pujas are going well. I'm Alisha Shaw, DSC lead of TIB. So, first of all, I'm really glad that we all are here to make this event fruitful. We are delighted to have Jaideep Prasad as the speaker of this event. He has achieved so many things in such a short time, and presently he is a SDE intern at FEL, had worked at Geo, cracked GSOC 2 times, and the list goes on, but we should proceed without wasting any time. So I would now ask Jaideep to continue with this event. Over to you, Jaideep.
Yeah, thanks, Alicia. So, hello everyone. Thanks for joining in today and taking all of your time out to learn something fruitful, which might be effective in terms of in your own career, right? So a big shout out to all of you who have joined here on this evening. So now, without further ado, I'll like to share my screen. So I'll be doing that just in a moment. Yeah, just let me know if my screen is visible to all of you. Like, you can
Yes, it
spam
is
on the
with.
chat. Cool, 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 cool. Great. Cool. So now starting up with our today's session. So as you already probably know that what is our topic for today's session, it's the placement plot, right? So what exactly are we going to cover today? We'll discuss in a very short moment of time. But before that, just a quick introduction. But already Alicia has introduced me, but so I'll not spend too much time here. So as she already mentioned, I'm currently working as a SD intern at Trell. I have done my past engineering works at Geo, releasemyad.com, right? And I've been an open source contributor and maintainer at various organizations like Force Asia, Aussie, and Flutter as well. And I've worked with the Google team there as well. So you can follow up my work on my GitHub profile, which is at the rate JDDeep. You'll find some cool stuff there which you might be interested in and would like to remain in touch with, right? So always you're welcome to go there and take a look, and probably you'll definitely find something useful for yourself, right? Cool. So now proceeding further, in terms of talking about in terms of our today's session's topic. So understanding the reality of placements and what to do, right? So whenever we enter our college, right, like even from the first year, we start thinking that okay, so we are in our first year right now, maybe we can take things lightly right now, and maybe we'll see what happens in our third or fourth year, right? But still we start thinking about stuff like on the basis of things we hear from people that hey, you are in a tier 2 or tier 3 college maybe, or hey, I'm in a tier 1 college, I'm in IIT, this and this will happen to me, and this will be happening to you, right? And we start creating misconceptions about things, and start generating our own viewpoints about that. And no one is quite there for everyone, that who can tell that, hey, you are thinking wrong, like this doesn't happens, but actually this happens. So it's very important to understanding the reality of things here, and what and how actually things carry about when we talk about placements in terms of different colleges and everything. So talking about on campus placements, if you are supposed like you are interested in placements which are carried out by different colleges, like suppose you are studying in a certain college, and you are interested that, okay, whatever companies my college will bring to our colleges, we will be sitting for our placements there, and we won't be looking out for anything else, right? So if you are like taking upon on that mindset, so you should know about the reality, right? So I'll be clearing on each topic the reality, right? So and then we'll discuss how to actually move forward on a more correct way, so that we can utilize all these 4 years, like for people who are in currently in their first years or second years, maybe, like it will be very beneficial for them, like if they can actually get to know about the reality, how things are working in today's world, how students getting those jobs, and what's the actual reality, so that they can replicate that and achieve good things in their careers as well, right? So talking about that, so on the basis of colleges or universities, there are two categories, right? So one is popularly known as tier 1, which are like the colleges who dwell in that tier are basically the IITs, NITs, and BITs, right? So what here happens is that, being such reputed and big organizations, what they do is that they have a higher touch with those big companies, which we like to call MNCs, and they talk with them and bring them up in their colleges, and ask them to recruit good quantities of students from their colleges, right? Because even they know that they have that quality of students in their colleges, right? So it's a very common sense, right? Like you can't blame that, okay, hey, why Google is only coming to IIT Kharagpur, why Google isn't coming to suppose some tier 3 college, right? So you can't actually complain about it, because it's a very common sense. Like if you yourself put your own position into, like suppose you are the HR of Google, so it's a very common sense that you will try to go to a place where you have the maximum probability of getting more good students, more good employees in a short amount of time, right? Like you have to invest a minimum amount of time, but you will get quality employees in a large number, right? So it's a very common thing that they will be going to those places, right? So it's definitely not a fault on their part as well, right? So that is what about the tier 1 colleges. Like companies like these MNCs actually visit these colleges and hire students on their merit, according to all the on-site interview rounds, which which they do at those campuses itself, right? So they judge students then and there, and they extend the offer letters at that position, right? Now, coming to the second category of colleges, which is basically the colleges which we especially dwell in, talking about myself as well. So, I basically belong to a tier 3 college, right? So what this category is all about, like tier 2 and tier 3. So, here you can say that all the local government colleges fall under this category, or even maybe some private colleges, some big private colleges also fall under this category, right? So what here happens is, so suppose you study in a good private college, say, and they have some good amount of funding upon their sleeves. So sometimes I've seen the fact that they still try to bring a company, say Amazon or Microsoft, just for the sake of their advertisements. Like suppose in 2 or 3 years, once they will bring Amazon, and they'll ask them to hire maybe two or three people from their college, and they will be able to do those advertisements for the next 5 years, right? So that's actually the reality about that thing. Like some private colleges uh, do like this, right? But in general, talking about, like, say, a normal tier 3, tier 2 college which do not have such good amount of fundings or do not have any such touch with such companies as well. So basically you will see there that some some mass recruiting companies, say, maybe even in today's date, TCS has also moved on to online, so they can't be really called as a mass recruiter. But there are companies like Cognizant, Wipro, so they what they do is, like, even there are local startups as well, right, which are growing. So what these colleges do is that they, since they already have in touch with them, and since these companies recruit on a mass manner, so they contact them and ask them to visit their colleges. And then this what these companies do is basically, maybe have a couple of interview rounds, and they judge on the criteria of, maybe academic performances, right? Because they are there to, mass recruit, right? So they will be judging mainly on your academic performances, and maybe, ask some coding questions here and there, right? So they will do that. And also these companies won't be having such a long grinding interview rounds, like maybe 6 to 7 or 8 rounds. Like these companies won't be having such long interviews, but maybe they will be having 2 to 3 interviews, and they'll check you on the basis of your academic performances in your colleges. And maybe in one round they will give you some coding questions, if that role is specifically for a, say, a software engineer, right? So that is about those type of companies who visit this tier 2, tier 3 colleges, and how they actually mass recruit people, right? Yeah, so that is about this on campus placements on the basis of on the division of this tire thing, which we popularly call in today's date. Like you might have heard this from various people talking, like, hey, if you belong to IIT, that means you're from a tier 1 college, and if you belong to some private or local government college, you are from basically tier 2 or tier 3 college, right? So that's the simply the reality of on campus placements, which actually happens in these both these categories of colleges. And also on the note of that, I would like to say that nothing is wrong here, right? Like, as I mentioned, that what actually is the mindset of even the HRs of those companies, right? So you can't blame anyone here, right? Because you always try to put yourself in their position. So you might think that, hey, I am a brilliant student, I have done this and this, but I study from a tier 2, tier 3 college, but Google doesn't visit my college, and I feel deprived, right? So you can't actually say that, because you try to put yourself in the position of the company, or in position of some other person whom you are comparing with, and see and try to think that what you would have done if you were in that position, right? Because the company won't be coming all the way from their own offices to some tier 2, tier 3 college to pick up some a single person who is until and unless he is extremely talented, and like some has done some quite extraordinary brilliant stuff, which is in the eyes of the whole world, right? So until and unless you're that kind of person, generally these big MNCs, like companies like Google, Microsoft, right, won't be visiting your college if you are in a tier 2, tier 3 college, right? Cool. So now moving on to that. Right. So now the most important part, like now I'm considering that most of you are here that who know that, hey, my college won't be maybe bringing such top companies into our colleges, and I might not be getting a chance to sit for a on campus placement and go to my maybe my dream company, right? So what to do in that scenario, right? So that is where off campus placements come into play, and we start thinking that, hey, what should be done and how we should proceed, and what are the prerequisites, what are the things needed for a person to be prepared for off campus placement, and how to actually get that opportunity to sit for the interviews with such companies, right, being from a low end college, a tier 2 tier 3 college, right? So a couple of points which you should remember for cracking off campus placement, campus interviews, right? So those couple of points are basically, you have to be self driven and determined, right? And because you see, you have to put that effort in, right? Simply speaking, you can't just sit around and be daydreaming that, hey, this and this will happen, I'll do this in certain year, I'll do this in that year, and I'll crack this and this interview in that year, right? You can't actually just sit like that and dream about those kind of stuff. You actually have to get up and start working, like, because see, which brings me to the next point, right? Because loads of opportunities are out there, right? So you always have to be ready, right? Because in terms of off-campus placement, you always have to be on your toes, right? Because you will never know when an opportunity will come up, right? Maybe suddenly tomorrow you'll see Google has started some off-campus internship drive or off-campus placement drive, wherein they're asking people to send in resumes, on which they are sending out, in reply of which they are sending out online coding invitations, right? After which they will schedule your interviews, right? If you actually pass those coding rounds, right? So you never know, so you always have to be prepared for that, right? So what you need to do is actually get up from the day itself, which you are thinking that, hey, I'll be doing this and this on certain date, but no, you have to get up and start working, bring that determination inside yourself, right? So because you have to crack that internship, or even a full-time role which you want, right? No one will do it for you. So that is something which you need to develop in your mindset, that hey, whatever needs to be done from today, and these are the steps which I need to follow. And if I follow those in a honest manner and in a self driven manner, I'll be definitely uh, getting my opportunity pretty soon. If not today, it will be tomorrow, right? So always try to be prepared. So because even if you fail on your first opportunity, there are always loads of opportunities after there. It's not that, hey, on one certain day I'll get an opportunity, and after that I won't be getting any opportunity, right? So in today's date, even these big companies are starting to become very transparent, right? So they are day by day opening up more off campus placement scenarios. And even if you see on today's date on their careers website, you will see loads of full time uh, roles open just right now, right? So what does that mean? That there are a whole lot of opportunities out there, right? So you just need to be ready, you just need to be at your best, so that you once you apply and once you get the interview call, you are be ready to crack it and get into that dream company, right, of your, right? So proceeding on that, yeah. So just on that, like you might think that, hey, this might or won't be happening. Like, how come I will be getting interviews with Google? How come I'll be getting interviews with Amazon, Microsoft, right? So just on the fact of that, like the screenshots which you are seeing on your screens right now. So these are some of my interview rounds which I cracked with Google and Amazon in my second years, right? So, and all these are off campus, right? Like the Amazon interview was scheduled on one day in Hyderabad that I couldn't actually go, but cause our semester exams was there, right? So I couldn't actually do anything about it, right? But I was prepared, right? So it's the fact that you always have to be that, like, I wasn't getting any sort of depression or anything, that, hey, I cracked the coding round and everything, and my final interview is on this day, but I won't be able to go because my semester exam is there, right? So because I knew that, okay, I've cracked these interviews, that means that I am capable, I'll be getting more and more opportunities in the future as well. And if if the opportunity arises, right, and if the time is right, I'll definitely get my shot there, right? So just on the fact of that, these are my final interviews with Amazon and Google, which I cracked recently, like in my second years, right? So this is just to show you, I attached some of these screenshots just to show you that, hey, it can be done. right? So you don't need to worry about whether it can be done, like, hey, if someone has done it or not, and I'm not sure if this can be done. So I study in a college, in a tier 3 college here in Kolkata, and I've cracked interviews with Google in North America, right? So I've given on-site interview rounds in North America, right? So that means what? So what is the essence of me saying this, right? So it doesn't matter where you belong from, right? So all you need to is that good determination inside you, and your work should show that, right? So always try to put that honest effort in your work, and be always prepared, right? Because the opportunity will come, if not today, it will definitely come tomorrow, right? So you should always be prepared. Now, coming on that preparation part, like, uh, how actually, you go about things, right? So even for, if you say suppose apply in today's date, if you apply for a internship at Google, if you apply for internship at Amazon or Microsoft, right? So the first step they basically do today is that even the resume selection, like the resume shortlisting process, has become quite transparent, right? So what they do today is that they actually, whoever applies, they actually directly send the online coding round invitation, right? Wherein there are 2 to 3 questions, and you have to solve those questions in a time span of maybe 1.5 hours or 2 hours, right? And even in Amazon interviews, there are MCQs as well, which are pretty straightforward, right? So about that, so now how to get good at this coding, online coding rounds, and how to actually, crack these rounds, right? So there are some simple steps, right? Again, so no secret ingredient is involved here, right? So what are those steps to actually, be good at these coding rounds, and make sure that you crack these first rounds, and then schedule your next on-site interviews, right? So what are those steps basically? So the first step is basically prepare, practice, and thrive, right? So all you need to do is actually, keep that hard will inside you, and all, practice all those problems, all those concepts which you are learning day by day. It's not that, hey, I've learned some problem, I've learned some concept today, and I know it now, and I'll be again revising it maybe some 4 months later, right? It's not actually that, right? You need to practice questions on us, on even it can be a simple concept which might have been trickier for you at some point of time, but since you have got the understanding of it now, you start practicing problems on those from today, right? You practice every day until and unless there comes a day wherein you actually memorize those problems, right? So this is something which I know, this comes after a lot of practice, and even I can tell from experience that once you practice some concept, once you practice problems on some concept, right, repeatedly, day after day, maybe 2 to 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, right? So if you practice diligently every day, right, what it happens is that it automatically starts sticking into your mind, right? So whenever in future you'll get a problem related to that, maybe the exact same problem, or maybe some variation of that problem, like then and there it will strike in your mind that, hey, this should be solved like this, right? So that is the power of practice, right? It uh, it once you actually implement that, you will definitely feel more and more confident, right? So, and next step is prepare and develop your problem solving skills, right? So now problem solving skills is pretty important, right? Like once you read a problem, you should be able to understand that what like at a first glance, that what concept could be used here, or what trick could be used here to to solve this problem, right? What steps I could follow to getting this problem done, right? So now what you can do here, to for this particular step, is you can practice your problem solving skills over GFG, which is jigs for jigs, and with lead code, right? So so both these platforms, jigs for jigs and lead code, have a great set of problems which actually are like good for talking about for even beginners or even advanced coders, right? So if you are trying to crack some interview, if you're trying to develop your problem solving skills, platforms like jigs for jigs and lead code are always the go to platforms, right? Because what happens here is that in both these platforms you will get topic wise questions, and even you will get company wise questions, right? So it's all up to you how you want to prepare yourself. Like suppose you're targeting some specific company, you can always go to that page. Like you want to crack Microsoft's interview, you can go to the questions asked by Microsoft page, and there you can actually practice all those problems given there. And even there is a link for the concepts applied there. You can check out those concepts if you don't already know them. You understand those algos, and then you try to implement them repeatedly, right? So as I said again, that even if you solve a particular problem which you might not have known earlier, you need to practice that problem continuously, repeatedly for say 3 to 4 or 4 days, right? Until and unless it actually starts sticking to your brain. And even in the future, whenever you sit in an interview, right? So suddenly this question comes up, and you should not have to think too much or waste too much of your time, because it will be sticking into your mind, and suddenly it will strike that, hey, this should be happen like this, right? So even the interviewer would be impressed that, hey, this person knows his stuff, and he can actually solve this kind of problems pretty quickly, right? So that's something you also do for the impression you leave on the interviewer, right? So the interviewer also should see that, hey, this person, this possible employee which we are trying to recruit, has got the certain knowledge, and has got the certain problem solving skill, who which he or she can implement in such less amount of time, right? So that is something which you need to develop, is that your problem solving skills. And where you can do that, you can go at jigs for jigs along with lead code, which is the extreme like most top most rated uh, platform for developing your problem solving skills in today's date, right? Which I will actually recommend, right? So now coming on to the third step is that now you have actually started developing those problem solving skills, right? You are starting to you know uh, solve easy or medium level questions on a lead code. You have covered all your concepts over jigs for jigs. You have understood almost all the things given there, right? So now what you can do, you can move on to these platforms, like popular platforms, mainly code chef, code forces, hackerrank, right? So not necessary. So this step is not actually compulsory, because I myself, honestly speaking, I myself has have never done it, right? Because what my psychology is that if you start actually developing your problem solving skills, and if you practice problems, if you practice concepts, if you practice algorithms on a regular basis, you can actually solve any kind of problem, right? So all you need is that diligent mindset to practice. Even if it's a new concept and you have understood it on a certain day, you need to practice it repeatedly, right? Until you absolutely get good at it, right? So suppose there is a graph algorithm which you wanted to master for a long time, and you on one sudden day you have understood that concept, and you have implemented, you have solved a problem for the first time, right? So you of course you be happy, you can even throw a small party. But what you need to do is like repeatedly solve that same problem, like maybe for the next week, right? So what that will do is that it will solidify your grasp on that. But on problems like those, even if there's a variation of that problem, you will be able to solve it, because you as like you have practiced it so diligently, like on a repeated basis, that it has to strike your mind then and there, right? Even in an interview, right? So that is the power of practice, right? So yeah, so these steps are basically involved for getting good at those online coding rounds, which companies directly send you invites if you apply for them, right? Like these like after the resume shortlist process, this is the next step that companies do, right? So you always need to be prepared for these rounds, like whenever you apply for some internship drive or some placement drive at big companies, right? So yeah, so make sure you follow these steps, right? So you can take a screenshot of these like particular pages as well if you feel, and maybe refer to them later, right? So yeah, so that is something about what you need to do is uh, for the online coding rounds, right? For cracking those online coding rounds, right? Cool. Now, going on to the next part is that how to prepare yourself for those grinding interviews, right? So now talking about the next step is that, say you have okay, you have mastered your online coding round, you have cracked it, and now the recruiters have sent you emails for scheduling your next on-site interviews, right? So now always you have to prepare yourself for the worst, right? Because you don't know what will happen with you, right? Because I myself can talk from experience that even some interview you will see that gets finished in half an hour, right? And some interview, like even it's a one-to-one interview, it will be going on till 2.5 hours or maybe 3 hours, right? So that is something which you need to be prepared for, right? Because generally we don't think that a one-to-one interview will last for so long, but it can get pretty exhausting at times, right? So you always need to be prepared for the worst, right? So how you can do that, right? So there are some steps again which you need to follow. So again, you can screenshot this particular slide, right? So what you need to do is, on lead code you will see that on based on the level of problems, there are three levels: easy, medium, and hard. So you don't need to worry about the hard level problems right now, right? So what you need to do is, on maybe on a weekly basis or maybe twice in a week, what you need to do is, in a continuous fashion, within take a a stopwatch of 1.5 hours, right? And solve 3 to 4 lead code questions, right? And that you have to do like in a honest manner and in a continuous fashion, right? Like you won't be taking any breaks. Solve those 3 to 4 questions one after another. Like suppose you solve that first question, you don't be maybe feel complacent that, hey, I've solved the question, I am a genius, right? Like you don't need to feel like that. Just keep on solving those 3 to 4 questions within the 1.5 hours. Just think it as of a some game, right? With that within this certain amount of time you need to achieve this and this, right? So that is something, so this is something which will help you in terms of your sharpening your brain and keeping your brain always in an active position, right? Because in interviews I have often seen that people start getting panicking and start getting a bit dizzy, and start even if they know the answers, they start giving out vague answers, right? So maybe you have got the concepts, maybe the person has got knows the concepts, he knows the solution, but since it has been a long interview, it has been a long day, but the person starts giving out wrong answers, which displeases the interviewer, right? So you don't want that, right? Because you have prepared yourself for such long, you have learned everything almost, you have mastered the concepts, you have practiced problems, you have practiced different variations of problems, but still you couldn't crack that interview just because it was a too long interview and it was pretty exhaustive, right? So for that I would say that take do this on a regular basis, like maybe twice in a week, right? You practice every day. You, as I said, there is no stoppage of practice, right? You need to practice problems, you need to learn stuff every day, right? So that you should do every day, but always try to do follow, like implement this step, this particular step twice in a week maybe, right? Cool. So now the next step is coming is that practice in a much concentrated fashion for the last week before your interviews, right? So now that you have, suppose you have got your on-site interview scheduled, like you have cracked your online rounds, your first couple of rounds maybe, and now you are scheduled for your on-site interviews, right? So take a minimum. So what it happens is that the recruiter drops you a mail that, hey, we would like to interview you, so can you please schedule some, like maybe give us some possible times for you to maybe schedule your interviews, right? So always try to have that 1 week cushion to yourself, right? Because you need to actually, maybe it happens that you have lost some touch, like you don't actually regularly practice as you used to do earlier, but so you have lost touch. So always try to keep that 1 week cushion for yourself. So try to ask them if we can schedule interviews after 1 week. So once you give the HR the dates, now your work begins, right? So Try to start revising everything. Like you won't be able to cover everything, right? Of course, it's a common sense that you won't be able to do all the possible questions, all the possible variations of problems of every concept of every algorithm, right? So it won't be possible for that, but try to revise the main, at least the ideas of the problems which you would like to implement to solve it, right? So that you need to do in a much grinding fashion for the last week, right? So be prepared for that. Like you take that cushion of 1 week and start preparing yourself in that week at your extreme best to crack that grinding interview which you will be sitting for after the week, right? And the next step is that try to give mock interviews, right? So this is a step that maybe you can take some premium subscription of platforms like lead code. So lead code also has their own mock interviews, right? So even Geeks for Geeks have started doing mock interviews, and there are various other platforms. So once you just do a simple Google search of mock interviews for software engineering, you will get loads of websites, so you can check out their uh, stuff which they are giving you out. So you can always take some subscription of their interviews and sit for those mock interviews, right? So that will essentially get yourself a bit more prepared in terms when if you are, suppose you are a fresher and you haven't got that experience of how actually interview occurs, and you don't have that mindset that how you should behave or how you should sit in an interview, right? So these mock interviews actually helps you or gets you prepared for the actual situation which you might be facing on the day of interview, right? So if you have got that cushion with yourself, like maybe you have got ample amount of time, maybe a week or two, so try to sit for these mock interviews on these popular platforms, maybe buy a subscription or something, right? So this will essentially get you more prepared for how to actually behave, or actually the situation will be when you sit for the interview, right? So that's about the third step, right? So the fourth step is remain calm and chilled, right? Prepare for the worst and be ready to take whatever you face, right? So this is always a very important step whenever we talk about interviews, right? So what I have seen people, like even with myself as well, like sometimes it happens that maybe you don't know answer to a certain question and don't know what to do, right? So you start panicking, and like actually instead of thinking about the very problem, you start thinking of a lot of other things, like hey, what will happen if I don't answer this? What is the interviewer thinking? So the all these type of things actually start getting you panicking, and you actually even if you knew the answer, you could have thought about it and could have even given the answer, but instead of that you started panicking and messed up all everything, right? So that is something which you should avoid, right? So you always need to calm yourself down, and so always you need to be prepared for the worst, right? Like maybe it can happen that there is no 100% guarantee of anything, right? So it may happen that uh, the interviewer doesn't gets you right, or maybe he thinks that you are not actually quite suitable for the job, so he might actually give you a rejection, so right? Because it's not that you, because there will be loads of candidates, right? So it can be that some other person is more suitable than you. Maybe his behavioral interviews are going well, maybe he's like a more proficient in some other thing which you might not be good at, right? So all these things actually matter when talking about placements, right? So it's not that if you don't crack some certain interview there aren't any opportunities for you, right? You won't be able to crack any other interviews, right? So as I said, there are loads and loads of opportunities out there, right? You just need to be always be on the look, right? So I'll let you know like how to always be on the look, and how you actually get to know about opportunities for off campus placements, right? Yeah. So that is about that. So you should not panic, and you should always uh, remain in a chilled fashion, and think that, and should not be desperate in any situation that if you like fail a certain interview there is no life after that, right? There are millions of opportunities waiting for you. You just need to grab one opportunity, right? So it's all about that. You need to keep trying. So even if you like try for 100 times and fail for 99 times, and only pass for one time. So only that matters, right? All those failures actually don't matter. So if you grab that one opportunity out of 100, you use it to your own benefit, that all, it is all that matters to you, right? Because whatever you have failed, nothing matters, but what you have gained through your hard work and efforts, only that matters, right? So always try to be relaxed, right? Nothing is uh, there is no guarantee of anything, but so you always need to be chilled, and you always need to be you know be prepared for the worst, right? And believe in yourself that okay, I the interviewer has rejected me, but I have given my best. I have solved all the questions which he asked. I have done this and this. So analyze yourself after every interview, right? Even if it's a failure or success, doesn't matter. Analyze yourself where you might have done wrong. Maybe you have started panicking at some time, so try to correct yourself from the next time, right? So every time you do something, there is some learning out of it, right? So always try to take out that positive thing from your experience, right? And lastly, on the days of interviews, try to listen good music, relaxing music, and sleep well before your interviews. Now this is a very important step, right? Because many a times I've seen people actually started panicking the day before and haven't given their minds, given their body rest enough, and they have, even if they knew everything, they have messed up their interviews, right? So always try to remain relaxed and sleep well before your interviews, right? So this is a, like, maybe this can be thought of as of a neglecting step, but I actually give it more importance because I have actually faced this in my own experience, right? So always try to follow it. Like, do not try to panic anything. Like, there is no need to panic. Just be honest and be confident upon your skills, since you have practiced and prepared yourself for the last all those years, or maybe the last months. Maybe it's up to you how much time you give for your preparation. So just be confident in that, and be relaxed and be chilled, and go for the interview, right? So that's about how you actually prepare yourself for those on-site interviews, right? Cool. So so now the next thing comes is that what actually you need to prepare for, to sit for those maybe online coding rounds, or even uh, the on-site interview rounds, which of those big companies, right? So here are some popular topics, which mostly questions are asked in terms of today, which companies take interviews about, right? If it can be internship interviews, it can be fresher interviews, right? So the first point is that graph basics, right? So strengthen your graphs, algorithms, your traversal algorithms, and whatever popular algorithms related to graphs there are, such as Dijkstra's, Prim's, Hamiltonian's, TSP, traveling salesman problem, and its variations, right? So these are some of the terms which, like, maybe some people of you don't know. So what you can do is take a screenshot of here. I'll mention one resource towards the end, which will actually, which is one of my own repositories over GitHub. So there I've compiled some popular questions. There are some data structures as well, which have been implemented from scratch, right? So you will get all those towards the end of the slides, right? So you don't need to worry about it, but you can always take a screenshot of some popular topics to prepare for sitting for interviews in today's date, right? Cool. So that is something. So the first, so this is in order of, priority, right? So the first point being graphs. So the graphs are, quite popular these days. Even my, recent Google interview with North America. So from just experience share. So they both the questions which they asked are basically based on graphs, right? So backtracking is still involved in there, but it could be done directly with graph algorithms, right? So I won't saying much technical terms here. Like, you can always look for popular graph algorithms, or just those are just a Google search away from you, right? So what you can, you always, there is jigs for jigs, right? So you go to the topic there as graph and see all. So in jigs for jigs they have compiled everything together, right? There are with mention of the names of algorithms, they have compiled everything, right? So therein you can understand about the algorithm, how things work out there, what's the concept behind it, and then check out the problems and get ahead and solve those, right? So that's based on priority. So give more importance on graphs. On today's date, I'll recommend, right? Understand the traversal algorithms, understand the popular algorithms, such as these mentioned up here, right? So next up are trees, right, on the basis of priority. So binary search tree, so no such complex level things like red and black tree and all those kind of stuff, right, Fenwick tree, all those are not recommended in terms when talking about fresher interviews or even internship interviews, right? So maybe these can be important. Suppose you are applying for, say, some senior most role of some software engineer, maybe SD3 role for some company. So in that case, maybe they might be even asking questions on that. But talking about fresher roles or maybe internship roles, right? So questions aren't actually asked on such advanced level or maybe complex level topics, right? Just get your basics cleared, right? Because even when you are talking about practicing problems over lead code and everything, don't directly grow like go on to the hard level problems and get yourself entangled and start panicking that you can't solve this and this question, what will happen. So always start with all the easy level questions, right? Yeah, so mostly in today's date, interviews are focusing like things on which are much related to the basics and the concepts actually, rather than just some tricky like rocket science question that uh, and try and asking the candidate to solve it in a shorter amount of time, right? Because you try to think from from their perspective as well, right? Because the time has been becoming short, right? Like interviews nowadays are, say, what, like 40 to 45 minutes of for one round, right? Which is like this is the default timing. It may exceed and may get lessened, right? But talking about thinking about the default timing, so you, even they know that you won't be able to code some goddamn long data structure in front of them within that short period of time, right? So even they will ask questions which are much related to basics, but actually require some good understanding of the concepts which are underlying, right? So always try to do that, right? Without actually memorizing things, just practice enough that it automatically gets inside your head and sticks within it, so that whenever you go ahead to solve those questions, you are able to do it, right? Cool. So that is about trees, right? So you can again take a screenshot. So I'll just go through about that. So BST means binary search trees, right? LCA means lowest common incident, right? And deletion and special insertions are always there, right? Like maybe they will ask you to insert some node at some special position, so you always need to practice, get yourself ready with all those type of things, right? Like even in binary search trees deletion, there are three cases for deletion, right? So you need to get yourself practiced up with all those situations, right? Because even the interviewer will try to trick you, right? Because even when you're trying to solve a question, he might throw that, hey, suppose this and this is the situation, how will you do this, right? So you need to be prepared for every situation and every variation, right? So all, so that you can give a proper solution to them then and there, right? So everything you'll be getting on jigs for jigs about this, whatever I'm mentioning here, right? So you just need to go to the topic of graphs or trees or whatever, and everything is compiled well under uh, that topic, right? And even the repository which I will mention, you can find some stuff there as well, which are well compiled together, right? So also talking with respect to trees, understand the recursive algorithms there, right? Like, so you will see a lot of recursive code, a lot of recursive methodology used there. So instead of like just raw manipulating or raw memorizing things, try to understand, maybe draw some graphs, like maybe make a pictorial representation of the thing which you are doing, right, which can make you better understand, right? So try to understand the logic used there, right? So that recursive logic which is used in trees is actually very helpful in terms of whenever you solve questions of other concepts or other topics as well. So if you understand things from there, you will be getting benefited a lot, right? Because the recursive algorithms, recursive logic used in solving questions of trees are pretty fruitful when talking about solving problems of other concepts as well, right? So the third point is dynamic programming, right? So again, talking about dynamic programming, so get yourself very comfortable with the basics, right? You don't need to try and go ahead with solving some complex level advanced problems or hard level problems of dynamic programming, right? So you just so in terms of fresher interviews, as I mentioned, just have a good grasp of the basics of dynamic programming, maybe solve some popular problems, right? So there are a lot of popular problems of dynamic programming, like coin change problems, maybe LCS, right, longest common subsequence. So these are some of the common problems. So again, all these popular problems and concepts you will find well compiled under jigs for jigs dynamic programming topic, right? And if you want to solve problems about this, you can simply go on to lead code and search for dynamic programming problems. So there is well compiled tag wise problems set up there, right? So you can just simply select your tag which is of dynamic programming, and problems will be filtered according to the like level of difficulty you mentioned. So suppose you want to solve easy or medium level problems, you will get problems according to that, and you can solve those problems one by one, right? Cool. So that is about dynamic programming. So next up is string manipulation and arrays, right? Uh, so this is a pretty general uh, thing which mostly in online interviews also these are asked. So the first 3 points are majorly focused on the on-site interview. So those topics actually are very fruitful in terms of if you prepare well on those topics. So it's most certain that you will do well in your on-site interviews, one-to-one interviews, right? And like topics such as string manipulation or array based questions, right? So these are very helpful in terms of cracking the online coding rounds, right? Like certainly there are chances that even in the online coding rounds you will get questions based on graphs, right? But mostly in today's date, since the timing has been become more short, so they are starting to giving questions mostly on arrays, right? So that is something which you need to be well prepared. So prepare questions from LeetCode and GFG, and have a good grasp of some popular algorithms here, like a Dane's algorithm or sliding window technique and juggling algorithms, right? So these are some of the popular algorithms, right? So you can always find all this and more over jigs for jigs and practice problems related to this over LeetCode, right? So always try to use this combination, which is jigs for jigs and LeetCode, right? You understand stuff from jigs for jigs and solve and practice over LeetCode, right? So this combination, I've seen a lot of people getting great benefit from this combination, and are sitting at very good companies currently, right? So that is something which you need to focus on. Try to use this combination to your benefit, and you will certainly be on the positive side, right? And also on the final point, like this isn't a quite popular thing, but it may happen that in some certain interview, since it happens on Google Docs, so also you should try to practice whenever you are practicing before your interviews, right? You always try to code on a simple Google sheet, right? So there won't be any fancy IDs available which will autocorrect your code and maybe give those missing semicolons or braces, or maybe correct your syntax automatically, right? So you always need to keep yourself prepared. So what you need to do before the interviews, practice rigorously problems on Google Docs, right? So 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 the fifth step is basically implementing data structures from scratch, right? So maybe like the interview might ask you to implement a stack using a queue, using a array or a linked list from scratch on a Google Doc, right? So you need to be prepared for it, making the necessary classes, and going ahead to implement it, right? So even these implementing of these data structures, all these are available on my repository which I've made, right? So data structures like hash map, right? So even they might ask you to implement a hash map using arrays, right? So all these are available upon my repository. You can take a look. I'll share the link, right? So you always need to be prepared for these type of things as well, right? And always try to prepare yourself on Google Docs, right? Before your interviews. Cool. So here are some of the things which you need to remember before you start preparing for your off campus placements, right? Like especially talking about MNCs like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and all these, right? So, as I already said earlier, give more emphasis and focus on basics, right? Get a good understanding, get a good grasp of things at the foundations, right? Don't suddenly jump up on fancy problems and start solving them and maybe try to memorize them so that you can get good at your interviews, right? Just try to get your good understanding and good grasp of your basics, right? Because that will be required more. Cool. So next up is acquiring good domain knowledge on one, right? So now when you're talking about off-campus placement, so this is another important thing when you talk about resume shortlisting step as well, right? So mostly in if you talk about some tier one interview, right, tier one college interview, so maybe the interviewer or HR won't focus on a domain knowledge thing, but since you're sitting for off campus placement, he might would like to see your resume, or he would like to see what all things you have done in the past, or what have industry related knowledge you have upon your sleeves, right? So always try to get that some knowledge on one of the domains. Maybe it can be mobile application development, it can be web development, it can be machine learning, AR, VR, anything, right? So pick up a certain domain, right? So mostly I'll say you can go for app development or web development, right? Because these are some of the basically these are some of the domains which has a vast prospect for doing projects at a quick speed, right? Doing good projects at a quick speed, right? Even when talking about companies, you will see more opportunities related to uh, maybe application developer over some say augmented reality developer, right? So think about it, like choose a domain wisely, right? You don't want to choose something pretty extraordinary as well here, because it will take some good amount of time for you. So if you are interested, of course you are always welcome to go ahead with it, but always try to pick up something which uh, with which you can do more projects, and like show off your skills, like show off your problem solving skills and engineering skills through that domain experience, right? So which again brings me to the third point, is that get some industry or internship experience so that you can show that on your resume, right? So even whenever you're applying for off campus placements, like if there is no such automatic uh, like response from certain server which automatically throws online coding interview invitations or rejection mails, but if some HR actually looks through your resumes, so he or she might see whatever things you have done in the past, whatever domain knowledge you have, whatever projects you have done, right? So always try to get that, like maybe do one or two internships at some maybe some good startups, right? Because even talking about your local areas, right? Because like maybe you are living in some city, right? So there are good startups opening here and there uh, uh, every now and then, right? So you more often than not you will definitely get internships there. And also importantly, like whenever you apply for an internship there, or you even get some offer from startups, right, always, you should clearly state or clearly mention that you should be getting paid, right? Don't do unpaid stuff, right? Because you can always do unpaid stuff just like sitting on your home and doing your own personal projects, right? Why would you need to go and work under some company, under some management, and do their projects for free, right? So that just makes no sense. So make sure that you, whatever you do related to some industry, like maybe working for even a startup, make sure you're getting paid a considerable amount, right? So you judge it on upon your own skills, right? So make sure you're getting that right. Don't do unpaid stuff. And and so that once you complete that experience, you can show up on your resume whenever that resume shortlisting process happens during your placements, off campus placements. You can, the HR can see that, hey, this person has done this and this work, he has got good knowledge of some domain, he will be a good fit, and then he will schedule your interviews right away, right? So that makes a good impression if you have done good stuff in the past, right? So also along with that, which is related to that, is that make a strong and honest resume, right? So I've seen people, putting in vague stuff, like even if they don't know certain thing, they just type it in for the sake of that the resume would look good, right? So don't do that actually. So suppose on a certain fine day, a recruiter of some good company actually, gets to know about your resume and calls you and starts asking you that, okay, you have written that you have got knowledge of this and this, and starts asking you question, and you aren't able to actually give proper answers to that. So that actually, uh, like makes a pretty bad impression in terms of a candidate, like who is looking for a job, or maybe an internship, right? So make sure that it's an honest resume. You, if you want to achieve a certain skill, just do it. Like it's not that you need to just put it as a false impression kind of thing. If you want to know something, you want to learn something, do it and then put it on your resume. There is no hard and fast rule that you have to know this and this, so and then only you can put on your resume. Whatever you know, whatever you have done, honestly, whatever domain knowledge you have, whatever things you have done in past, you do not need to put any fake stuff up on your resume. Because if the recruiter or if the company gets to know about it, it actually leaves a pretty bad impression on your side, right? So don't do that. Just do stuff honestly and diligently, right? And make the resume strong, right? With whatever experience you're gaining in terms of doing good projects, in terms of, getting some internships and doing good industry work, right? Just put everything in your resume and make it honest, and try to make it as strong as possible, right? Cool. Cool. So now, which, brings me towards the end, like how to actually, apply and look for those opportunities, right? So as I said that there are loads of opportunities, you just have to always be, on the look for those, right? So what are some of the possible, places where you can actually look for those opportunities, right? So again, you can take a screenshot of this. So the first step is LinkedIn jobs. So if you actually have a LinkedIn profile, there is a job section wherein, companies actually post their openings, right? So even MNCs, right? All types of companies, right? So there is no discrimination there. Like even Google can open a vacancy up there, and even some startup also can have some vacancy, right? So you always need to check out the LinkedIn job section and apply from, and there they have the apply button. If you feel that you are quite fitting to the job, you can apply from that section, right? So the next step is the careers websites of different companies, right? So all these big companies, say Google, Microsoft, Amazon, right? They have their own careers website, right? All you need to just do a simple Google search. If you don't know the websites, like Google careers website, you will get uh, the link. You can simply go onto that link and find all the possible openings they have. So you'll find loads of openings there. So just check out every job description and see which actually, matches you for the most suitable role and apply at that, right? Because everywhere there is a limitation. You just can't apply to 1,000 jobs at once, right? So like for say for Google, I can say that in 1 month there are like three there is a limitation of three applications, right? So you can't apply more than three jobs in 1 month, right? You have to wait for the next month. Even in Amazon, if you have applied, you can only apply once in 6 months, right? So these are the things which keep to you have to keep in mind before you apply, right? So always try to find the most suitable role which you might be good at, and apply, so that the even the HR, the recruiting team, can take a look at your resume and get in touch with you quickly, right? And the third one is the Instahire, Glassdoor. So these are mostly for maybe good startups, but apart from that, great, some good companies as well also post their openings. So you can always check out their pages and see which company has posted for what role, right? And the fourth point is the referral drives, right? So often times we see that on a certain month, some employees who are currently working in such and such company suddenly post on LinkedIn that, hey, our company is starting to hire through this referral drive. If you want to apply, just send me your resume at this email ID and I'll get you a referral, right? So all you need to do is stay active on LinkedIn and always, maybe once in a day or twice in a day, just check out posts of employees and stuff, that whoever is posting that some openings are there on in their companies, right? So you always need to stay connected and be very hungry, which is the very fifth point, right? So try to connect with as many people as possible who you think that, hey, this person is pretty active on LinkedIn and posts very often times, right? So you can always check about their activity and connect with them pretty easily, right? So there is no discrimination out there on LinkedIn. You can, if you want to get connected to a person, just send them a connection request and you will be getting connected to that person, right? And you will be getting notified whenever the person posts, right? So that is something which about like how to actually apply and look for those opportunities, like which I talked about, that there are loads of opportunities, right? Because every now and then, today, even in 2 days of time, I'll see some opening at Amazon or some opening at Microsoft over LinkedIn, right? So that is the amount of openings which companies like this even are doing today, right? So you always need to, you don't want to waste opportunities like that, right? You never know which opportunities up there for you, right? So you always need to be on the run and be hungry, that whenever some opportunity gets opened up, you can just apply and go for it, right? Cool. So that is something which you need to always take a look at and be always prepared for it, right? So just get yourself a LinkedIn account, be on there, and look at the jobs section regularly, and see what companies have vacancies and have started opening jobs for. Check out their careers website, right? And connect with people who are current employees of your some dream company maybe, and just even talk with them that, hey, can you let me know whenever some referral drive or some off campus drive will be going on at your company. So they will definitely be able to help you out, or maybe say you a certain month wherein you need to apply to such some place, right? So always try to get connected to more and more people possible, and uh, get yourself that vast range of opportunities, right? Cool. So now coming to the resources part and where to refer to, right? When you are preparing, right? So as I already mentioned, all these, right? Whenever you need to learn some concepts, you should firstly and foremostly go on to Jigs for Jigs and search for that particular concept. You will find everything well compiled under that section, so wherein you can learn the concepts as well as the different problems of it, right? And apart from that, once you're done with that, go on to lead code, and you can filter out topic wise and solve problems from there, right? So always, in even on lead code, try to solve easy to medium level problems, right? No need to just directly jumping onto hard problems and try to solve it. Just get your basics and concepts cleared, right? So that you can solve any kind of variations and try to solve as many as easy to medium level problems in a shorter amount of time possible, right? So you should keep these things in mind, right? Whenever you're solving problems, don't just be like quite relaxed and take 2 to 3 hours for solving a single problem, right? So you always need to try to be there in an active position and uh, try to solve more number of problems in a minimum amount of time, right? Cool. And apart from that, whenever you're preparing for a certain specific company, so lead code has specific sections of company questions, right? So if you have got, so maybe they'll ask for some subscription which is pretty cheap, I can say, that you can afford, right? So you can get that subscription, and you will be able to unlock all kinds of questions from all types of companies over on lead code, right? Which you can check out and solve from there, right? And the fourth up is the my repository, which I was talking about. So here I actually maintain different algorithmic questions which are popularly asked in top companies. So you can take a screenshot of this and maybe go on to this link. I'll maybe share it with you all guys as well, right? So yeah, so that is about it, right? Cool. So that's about today's session. I'll be taking up questions now, right? So you can always connect with me over LinkedIn, and here is my email ID as well, and my Twitter profile. So you can always get in touch with me if you need anything. If you need any help, I'll be very happy and glad to help you guys out, right? So yeah. Cool. So if you guys have any question, feel free to like drop it in the chat box right now.
Thank you so much, Jaideep, for giving such a great information to us. Now we're going to start Q&A session. You guys can unmute your mic, or you can just drop your questions in the chat section, and he will answer each and every query. So go ahead. Um, for now, I haven't seen any question.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, sure.
Okay. First of all, I would like to thank for such an amazing session. I learned a lot. And my question is, as Jaideep mentioned, that for off-campus placements, we need to have a good domain knowledge about particular domain. But like, is there any such priorities like web development gets a higher priority than like app development, or something like ML or deep learning gets a higher priority? I mean, does recruiters or like judge on the particular which domain they are good at? Is it something like that?
Yeah, sure. I'll be taking up that question. So, see, so whenever you're applying, say for off-campus placements, as I said, like you can apply to over their careers websites or even on LinkedIn jobs. So, what they do is that for specific role, they have a job description, right? So, if they are hiring for an engineering role, which is related to web development or which is related to data science, which is related to machine learning, they will clearly mention it there, right? So what you need to do is that if you are, say, suppose you are good at app development, you need to apply for that engineering role which has maybe app development or development of that particular type of projects which you have worked upon in the past and is mentioned in the description. So you need to apply at those roles, right? Like suppose in the job description it clearly mentions that they are looking for people who are good at data analytics, they are good at data science, and they are good at machine learning and this. So you just can't go and blindly apply on that, right? Because they'll surely send you a rejection mail, right? Because say your domain is web development, you have worked with React and everything, and you have got quite a lot of good projects based on development, right? So but since you have applied to something which requires some data science knowledge or maybe data analytics knowledge, they will surely give you out a rejection mail. So you on your side you need to be sure that you are applying to something which is much related to your own domain. So you always need to, so this is a very important step when you're applying anywhere, right? So you always check out the job description, and whichever job, so there will be loads of openings, right? So you always check out each and every role, and whichever suits you the most, whichever you see that okay, they're mentioning that okay, the person should have programming knowledge, simply like they have mentioned some languages, that Java, C++, Python, and the person should have knowledge on this. You can definitely go ahead and apply on it, right? Because you know that you have knowledge, and apart from that you have some domain knowledge as well, so that will be like a asset for you, right? So you can go ahead with that in that case.
Thanks a lot. That answers my question. Thank you.
Cool, sure.
Thank you, Jaideep. Now, Rohit has asked a question how to apply off campus. Actually, has already answered it in the PPT, but Jaideep, would you like to point that out, like just a short point?
Yeah, sure, Rohit. So you can check out the, as I said, like if you have taken a screenshot, or maybe refer to the session afterwards as well. Like there is LinkedIn jobs section if you have a LinkedIn account, and apart from that, for big companies, there are their own careers website on which there they will have loads of opportunities, loads of openings mentioned. You just need to check out each and every job description, and which suitably matches you. You just need to apply on that, right? So that is that. You can refer to it at some point of time.
Okay, thanks, Jaideep. Another question we have, Hardik has asked, Sir, how much this information worked for you in bagging your placement, which you have provided in your PPT?
Yeah, sure. So see, so since I already mentioned that myself being from a tier 3 college, right? So I didn't have any such secret ingredient or some specific rocket science linked with myself, that I which I applied and got interviews with Google America and Amazon and everything, right? So all I did was follow this very specific steps which I mentioned it with you all guys, right? So in even in the PPT I mentioned, there is no such secret ingredient mentioned anywhere. You just need to be honest and diligently work hard towards practicing, right? Everything depends on your practice and your own efforts, right? So if you are the most hardest worker of all your peers, right, you will definitely get more opportunities in the coming past for sure, in the coming future for sure, right? So that is something which you need to focus on, right? So the steps are pretty simple, which I mentioned in our today's session. You just need to follow those, and there isn't anything special mentioned, and all those steps are pretty much have helped people who are currently sitting at good companies, even from some backdated colleges, right? So it didn't matter for them, it won't matter for you, right? So if you are diligent in your own work and you follow those basics pretty honestly, you will get your opportunity no matter whoever says what, right? So that is something which you should focus on.
Okay, another question we have, how can I get various project ideas that would stand out as technology is growing vast day by day?
Cool, sure. So see, technology will be ever growing. So what technology does is that simply that, as you're saying, it's ever growing. So it will only help you, right? So suppose you're implementing something from scratch, and suddenly you see one day that it already has been implemented in some sort of a library you can use, and the person can use that library, right? But pretty much you can actually open source your work and say that hey, I actually built that library even from scratch. So that will get you your own recognition, right? So people who will be using that library to build their stuff over you who have actually built that library, so that will make a greater impression in terms of whenever a recruiter will look at your profile and see of in comparison to a person who is making projects just with the help of different libraries, right? So try to be, as creative as possible, and in terms of project ideas, you can say that even in today's day you can see a whole lot of new startups opening up. So where are they getting the ideas? So So try to think from a common man's level perspective, right? So think what all problems you face in a day, right? So it can be a simple problem like which needs a simple solution. Try to solve it using your knowledge, right? It can be a maybe a simple thing, but try to actually make some application, make some product which actually targets that problem and effectively solves it for you, right? So think from a lower level perspective which common people face even during their daily lives, and you can actually help them by making something which will solve that problem. So try to think as per problem, and try to develop something in relation to the solution of that problem, right? You don't need to think too much about a lot of problems together at once. Just think, just list down problems which people are facing day by day, and you can provide your solutions through your own work, right?
Thank you, Jaideep. Do you have any more questions, guys? You can unmute your mic or maybe drop it in chat section. Okay, Jaideep, I would like to ask one question which I have been getting from other students. I just want to mediate it to you. How to manage time? Like you have asked to work on so many stuffs, but we have to manage time as well as take care of our online classes. So how do we do that?
Yeah, sure. So me as well, being from a college, like I do, like I have to do college work as well. Like I have to visit college as well on my weekdays, right? So what you can essentially do is that you see, being from a tier 3 college, uh, we and even talking about myself being from a government college, like I do have that kind of cushion that I can drop off a day, like maybe in a week, right? So I don't need to go to college say 5 days or 6 days. I can drop maybe 1 day or 2 day even, right? So and utilize it, right? So also, while even from returning from college, we do get the evenings time as well, right? So talking from a layman's point of view, try to learn something every day when you are actually preparing. Like you are a complete beginner and you are actually preparing, and you have got your placements maybe in a couple of years of time or maybe 3 years of time. So it's always good to start early, right? So what you can do is actually learn something new every day, right? And practice it. Even suppose you are in college, you don't need to you know when you're talking about off campus placement, it's certain that most subjects in the college will be won't be actually required, right? So what you can do is you can maybe drop off classes from your actual uh, days, right? So talking from my point of view as well, or even if you're sitting on a class, try to practice, right? Because it doesn't require you anything, right? You can simply take out a copy or and a pen and just try solving problems which you have maybe learned in the day earlier, right? So that will effectively utilize a lot of your time, right? So it is not that you are interested in 100% of your college stuff which is going on. It's absolutely not certain in that, right? So there will be a maybe a 1 or 2 period in your day where you aren't as quite enthusiastic about, and you utilize that time effectively, right? Because whenever you go home, you spend time learning, like being a complete beginner, you spend time learning concepts, learning algorithms from jigs for jigs, right? So once you do that, and you have got the weekends to practice more effectively, right? So whatever you've learned over the week, whatever you've practiced, maybe try to solve, as I said, get yourself that stopwatch of 1.5 hours and try to solve 3 to 4 easy level problems from a continuous fashion, right? So this actually takes time, right? So in the beginning it might seem pretty burden to you that hey, it's actually taking quite a lot of effort from my side, right? So that is something which you need to sacrifice from your side. Like you just can't come back from college and start get your Netflix on and start chilling with it, right? So that is something which you need to sacrifice from your side as well, right? Maybe get yourself some good amount of rest, like maybe some 2 hours rest after coming back from college, and start getting that grind started for yourselves, right? So that once you sit down on your weekends and practice all that you have learned over the week, it actually helps you out and you see the results, right? So that is something which I will say. And apart from that, effectively utilize your holidays, like even if you get some, maybe some holidays during your own normal calendar, and talking about now, it is for like every day is a holiday, right? So
Okay. Thank you, Jaideep, for answering this question. Uh, do you guys have any more questions? So let's proceed to the conclusion. I would ask Avnish to conclude this session. And Avnish?
Yeah. So thank you so much, Jaideep. This was a really great session and quite informative. Actually, like more of interactive session because this was much needed right now. Because like we really didn't had any ideas, or being from mainly from the tier three colleges, students are really confused about these stuff. So you narrow down multiple things, and I can see in the chat like many have appreciated the session and they are asking questions and all. So yeah, this was really great, and thank you so much for joining us, Jadi. You are really inspiration, and thank you, Alicia, and thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Jaideep. I have given all the links which you can follow for upcoming sessions. And thank you, guys. So best of luck. Don't panic and keep rocking. Bye.